All right, so there's a couple things I want to talk to you guys about today. First and foremost, I wanted to give you a quick rundown on, my kind of classroom protocol starting next week, right? And so remember, if your last name is A through K, you will be coming on A days, and then L through Z will be coming on B days, right? Um, if you have a hyphenated last name, it'll be whatever or whichever of your last names comes first in Power School, right? So if my last name were listed as Collins dash Zebra as my last name, I would still use Collins because it's the one that comes in first in Power School. Okay. The school should have sent out lots of information to you and or your parents. There should be a video link that kind of walks you through loading the bus and navigating the hallways and all that, as well as the school schedule. As I don't know all the details off the top of my head about every little thing, but as far as I know right now, school is still going to start at 8 o'clock. The school building does not open until 7:30. If you arrive at school before 8 o'clock, you will grab your breakfast from the cafeteria. If you're a car rider or bus rider, if you're a student driver, you'll enter right there by the media center and you'll be provided your breakfast if you want it. And then you'll report immediately to your first period, right? So next week, there will be no like hanging out in the commons area in the morning. As soon as you get to school, you'll report directly to your first period class, okay? So for those of you guys who arrive before 8, you guys will come right down to my classroom. Some things that you'll need to bring, and I'll send out a little bit of like a little list for my class. You'll need to make sure that you have your device, a charger, and a headset or headphones or AirPods, right? Because you guys are going to need to have the ability to be watching different videos and lectures on your own without disturbing the rest of the class. Now, what does it mean if you show up without your headphones? You can't throw your hands up in the air and say, well, I forgot my headphones. I guess I can't do this. No, I thought about that because I know some of y'all will do whatever you can to get out whatever work is necessary. And that's why I made sure that all the videos have closed captions. So you would simply be watching the video and having to read the closed captions the entire time. So don't forget your headphones. Don't forget your device. Don't forget your chargers. On Monday or Tuesday, depending on what your first day of school will be, I'll be giving you one of these, right? It's a state supplied pack of, I think, 5. I can't remember if there's 5 or 4 face masks in here, right? So if you don't already have face masks, there'll be some extra ones, but you need to show up to school with a face mask. They're not going to let you in the school without a face mask, right? But these are just some extras that can easily be laundered and cleaned. You can wear them over and over again. And I would suggest that each of you bring your own little hand sanitizer pack. There are hand sanitizer stations that have been set up throughout the school. And then obviously you can wash your hands in the bathroom. You can wash your hands in my class. But hand sanitizer is nice. It's really easy. And, you can do it fairly frequently. You will have your temperature taken when you get to school. And so if your temperature is above, I think 100 degrees, you will not be allowed to enter the school, right? So make sure if you have the option or ability to check your temperature at home before you drive or ride the bus all the way here, I'd do so, right? You'll be given a little packet of paper too during first period, whether you're A day or B day. That you'll need to take home and have filled out and get signed, okay? And so I just want to quickly, let me unplug my computer so I don't knock everything off. Let me just show you my classroom as of right now. So when you guys come down during first period, right? So if you get here before 8 o'clock, you'll report immediately to my classroom, and you can see that I've spaced the desks out, okay? So you can see that I've spaced out the desks, and the desks are facing a different direction. For those of you that have been in my class before, you know that normally the desks face the smartboard, but now the desks are all facing my mural because during any direct instruction, I'll obviously have virtual academy students, and so I need to give them instruction as well as you all at the same time or simultaneously, right? And so I'll be doing a lot of the direct instruction from in front of the mural, and you guys will be doing you'll be doing all of your work via the computer. So make sure to bring your devices. If you are a B-Day student, you will still be responsible for joining the class by 8 a.m. on Monday, right? So if you're a B student, you're still logging into Zoom during A days, right? It's as if you're here in class, you're simply going to be attending via Zoom. And the same is for A students. If you're an A student on Tuesday at 8 a.m., you better be logging in the Zoom. Otherwise, I'm probably going to mark you tardy. And after a certain duration of time, I'm just going to mark you absent. Okay. Now, if there's going to be any extreme circumstances where you may or may not be able to attend class due to sickness or travel or whatever, and you got to let me know ahead of time, right? You don't send me a message 3 hours later like, oh, I didn't make it to class. I'm sorry, because I'm going to mark you absent. It'd be no different than if you called me or sent me an email at the end of the school day and, I didn't see you and you're like, oh, Mr. Collins, I had this to do during first period. That doesn't matter. You were absent. You weren't here during class time, right? And so you will be attending class, virtually, okay? And I will still record the Zooms, right? So that if you need to watch them again for instructions, or like I said, under extreme circumstances, you were to miss class, you'll be able to access that information. Does anyone have any questions about that first day? You can send them to me in the private chat right now. Anyone have any questions? Okay, remember, for my class, device, charger, headphones, okay? And you will not enter my class if you do not have a mask on. And go ahead and grab my mask really quick. All right, I know some of you guys, when you wear a mask, the mask must cover both your nose and your mouth. This is not wearing your mask. Would you be okay with your doctor performing surgery with his mask or her mask like this? Okay. It needs to cover both your nose and your mouth at all times. The only time that your mask will be removed during the school day will be during lunch. Okay. Now, you might be thinking, oh, boo-hoo, I can't breathe in a mask. I can't breathe in a mask. I'll find you the video link, but a college NCAA athlete actually just ran I think a 4-minute and 10-second mile wearing a mask at elevation. So if they can do it, you can do it, right? I'm sure you should be able to walk down the hallway wearing your mask. And it'll give you a newfound appreciation for your doctors and your dentists who wear their masks for 90% of their day, okay? So make sure to bring your mask. They will not let you in the school. And in my class, you'll get one warning, just one, right? And so if your mask is down below your nose, I will warn you a single time, right? If it starts to slip, the second time, I will send you to the office. And as far as I have understood, any intentional mask disobedience will automatically move you to virtual academy, right? So if you're pretty excited about coming to Plan B, you need to make sure your mask is on and make sure your mask is on properly. Like I said, you get one warning in my class, and the second time I see it, you'll be directly sent to the office and then enrolled in virtual academy. Okay, so I am going to take this very, very seriously. All right, and so today you guys have your photosynthesis quiz. So before you guys depart and take your quiz, I want to do a little bit of a review. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, I did see a question. Will book bags even be necessary? Yeah, I would bring your book bag because you're still going to have to carry your laptop, your charger, your headphones, to each class. And you're going to be transporting it either from the bus to the school or from your car to the school. And what if it's raining, or if it's, you just want to make sure to protect your computer and your device. I would just take, if I were you guys, right? I don't know what your other teachers are saying, but if I were you, I would have my backpack. I'd have, maybe a couple pencils or pens, maybe, one spiral notebook with some paper in it, my computer, my charger, and my headphones. And that way, maybe if I were watching a video and I wanted to take some notes or something, I could be writing there on paper, right? Or I don't know about you guys, sometimes when I'm studying or thinking really hard, I like to doodle, right? And so that would be perfectly acceptable as well. So I would make sure to have like some paper, pencil and pen around, just in case, okay? Just to be taking notes on things. Hold on, let's see. For the days we are online and don't go to school, Do we still join at 8:30? No, no. Our whole school schedule is changing, right? And so I'll make sure to post the new school schedule. If you're, if you're a B student, if you're a B day student on Monday, you will join my Zoom at 8 o'clock. Okay. And the first day I'll probably give you a 10-minute window, but after 10 minutes, I'll mark you tardy, right? I mean, it's just like normal class. So some of you guys need to set your alarms, right? Some of you guys are notorious for joining the Zoom 15 minutes into it, right? And that's not going to happen anymore. Now that, your parents made it very clear in the board meeting that they wanted Plan B. And so Plan B will work if you make it work, right? So, you got to meet us teachers halfway for this to be successful, right? And so you will, in my class at least, you'll be logging into Zoom every single day except for Wednesdays. Wednesdays will still be an asynchronous day, all right? So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you still have your Zooms. Your Zooms will be at a new time to reflect the new school schedule. And so I bring book bags. Yes, yes. So for my virtual academy students, right? For my virtual academy, if we got a lot of students who are Plan B, which means that they're coming to school 2 days and the other 2 days they're doing remote learning. Virtual academy students, if you're in my first period or my second period virtual academy class, you will join my Zoom at 8 a.m. Because if you don't, you're going to miss my class, right? The virtual academy wasn't necessarily provided so that you could do school whenever it is you felt like. Now, if there are some extreme circumstances, like maybe you can't access the internet from 8 to 8:30, then I need to know that, right? And so that I can make modifications for you as an individual. But it's not well, I want to on this day, but on other days, I'm going to sleep in and come at 8:30. So my first period class, it doesn't matter if you're virtual or if you're Plan B, will start at 8 a.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday will be, I'm sorry, asynchronous. Does anyone have any questions about anything else? All right, no questions. So let's go ahead and start the review. If you think of questions while we're doing this, send them to me in the Remind or an email. All righty then. So let's get started with our review for today. So first thing I want you guys to do is take a look at some of these questions really quickly, okay? And you can do this either on a little piece of paper or just do it in your head. Look at each of these questions and think about the answer. And in just a minute, I'll have you type the answer to each question in the private chat as we go through these. So take a minute to look at these questions. These are some questions that you'll be responsible for, especially my honors students today during your quiz. So I'll give you a second to read each one. Let me set this up so I can have the chat open at the same time. Nope, that's not what I want to zoom. There we go, there we go. Okay, and this is a part of your participation for the day. Okay, so in the private chat, write the equation for photosynthesis. What is the equation for photosynthesis? Yes, this would be where you would list the reactants your arrow, and your products. It makes more than just glucose. And if you want to just type it out in words, that's fine too. So what you're going to end up with is carbon dioxide and oxygen produce glucose. I'm sorry, carbon dioxide and water produce glucose and molecular oxygen. Okay, so you've got carbon dioxide, CO2, and water, H2O. They react to form glucose, C6H12O6, and molecular oxygen. Okay, now sometimes you will not see or you will not include light as one of the reactants. And the reason for that is light is not a chemical. So there's no chemical formula for light. Light provides energy in the form of a photon or radiant energy. Okay, now when you look at this equation, one of the things to consider is let's look at the products, right? So the products, glucose and oxygen. If we were to compare the products of photosynthesis with the reactants, you will also notice if you were to measure the amount of energy in the reactants versus the products, you would notice that the energy contained within the reactants of photosynthesis is far less than that of the products. Why? This is just kind of a little bonus question. Why do the products of photosynthesis contain more energy? Why does the products, or namely glucose, why does the product of glucose or photosynthesis, which would be glucose, have more energy than the reactants? There's a bonus question if you watch the videos. Is photosynthesis a endergonic reaction or exergonic reaction? Endergonic meaning trapping and storing energy, exergonic meaning release. And I'll type those two words in there for you. Yep. So you've got endergonic or exergonic. Endergonic means trapping or storing energy. Exergonic will be releasing. Yeah. So photosynthesis is a endergonic reaction. Energy is captured from the environment in the form of light and then stored in the chemical bonds of glucose. So if you were to look at the products of photosynthesis, there would actually be more energy there than the reactants. Okay, it's endergonic. Energy is stored. And in science, if you see endo or ND, that usually means inside of something, right? So energy is trapped inside, whereas exer or exo usually means outside. So exergonic, the energy is released to the outside. All right, number two, we're on to number two. Number two, where does photosynthesis take place? Nice. Some of y'all just hit more specific. Don't just say in a plant. Where in the plant? Where in the leaves? Here, I'm going to read you guys. A student just sent this answer to me, and this is incredible, right? In the leaf, in the mesophyll cells, in the chloroplast, right? And that is a great answer, right? So this person is being very specific, right? They're saying photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast. Where do we find chloroplast? Mostly we find them in the mesophyll cells or the mesophilic cells of the leaf, right? And now, later on in the semester, we'll talk more about algae and we'll talk more about bacteria. And so there's a little bit of disparity there. So just think about the chloroplast, as the site of photosynthesis, right? So the chloroplast is the site of photosynthesis in plant cells, especially. Okay. Now let's look at number three. Describe the basic structure of a leaf and how it aids photosynthesis. Okay. Yes. Somebody already threw an answer at me. Uh, excellent to include the stomata. All right, stomata is plural for stoma, and the stomata allow carbon dioxide in and oxygen out, so that's important. Where are the mesophyll cells of the leaf? Are they at the bottom or near the top of the leaf, if you were looking at a leaf from a side view? So the very, very top of your leaf, right, the very, very top layer, it's got a nice waxy cuticle that kind of protects the rest of the leaf. And then below that, near the top, you've got the mesophilic cells, right, full of chloroplasts that would perform photosynthesis. And then you've got the stomata, right, that allow carbon dioxide in and the oxygen out. And if you remember from the video, I didn't talk too much about it, but there's a little vascular bundle that brings water from the roots to the leaves for photosynthesis, and then also will eventually take glucose and other byproducts out to the rest of the plant. Okay, so big things there is to kind of just understand like what cells in the leaf doing what. You know, the mesophyll, they have all the chloroplast, right? And then don't forget about those openings, the stomata, right? And plants can actually open and close those. It's kind of neat. And if I can figure out how to make it work with the whole social distancing and cleaning things, one of your labs, you guys will actually isolate stomata and stoma from the bottom of leaf cells and to look at them under a microscope. It's actually pretty interesting. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Where do the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis take place? So where does the light-dependent reaction take place for number 4? I'm seeing lots of good answers. Where does the light-dependent reaction take place? You know, I like to call the light-dependent reaction the LDR. Awesome. I'm seeing some great answers, right? And so inside of the chloroplast, right, we have what are known as grana, right? They're the little stacks. If we look at an individual granum, we have a stack of thylakoids, right? And so the thylakoid, right, is where the light-dependent reactions take place. And if we wanted to be really specific, which some of you guys were wonderful with your answers, you said on or in or along the thylakoid membrane. Okay, so the thylakoid membrane is where the light-dependent reactions take place. Now, here's another little bonus question. What is embedded in the thylakoid membrane that captures sunlight, right? It is the light-dependent reaction, so it depends on light. What in the thylakoid membrane captures sunlight? Yeah, some of you guys are great. What captures the photons? What is embedded or kind of like stuck in the thylakoid membrane that captures photons? It contains chlorophyll. So what do we call that protein complex that contains chlorophyll? Anyone remember? Yes, the photosystems, right? So the photosystems, you've got photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. They're both just big globs of various proteins, and embedded in those big photosystems are chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and a lot of the accessory pigments. And the photosystems are responsible for, you know, kind of capturing and absorbing those photons, right? And the photons, right, what they do is they excite electrons, right? They get these little electrons in chlorophyll. They get them really excited, and they get them so excited they just gotta burst out with joy. And those little electrons, as they absorb photons, they get so excited they rip off of the chlorophyll, and then they zip down the electron transport chain across the thylakoid membrane. That, you know, they get to the next photosystem, they get excited again, and they start zipping across again, right? And that flow of electrons, right, across that electron transport pumps hydrogen ions into the thylakoid lumen, which will be really important later on. Okay, let's look at number 5. Where do the light-independent reactions occur? So where does the LIR occur? The light independent reactions. Where does the light independent reactions occur? Sometimes the light independent reaction is also referred to as the Calvin cycle or the dark reactions, but I much prefer the light independent reaction. I kind of wish scientists wouldn't name things after themselves. It makes it kind of confusing. Yes, it occurs in the chloroplast, but where? I need more specificity than that. Where does the light independent reaction take place? Most of you are getting it right. Absolutely. The light independent reaction, also known as the Calvin cycle, also known as the dark reaction, takes place in the stroma. The stroma, okay? And I know when I first took biology, I often found myself getting stoma and stroma confused, right? And how I remembered it is, we talk about the light dependent reaction, with an R. And I think stroma has an R in it. So there's a reaction happening in it. Whereas stoma or even stomata, there's no R there. There's no R there. So no reaction takes place in the stoma or the stomata. That's simply an opening that air can go in and out of. And they can open and close, but there's no reaction taking place right in the center. Whereas the stroma has that R, makes me think of reactions, right? And you just got to come up with creative ways to help you remember. So the stroma is that sugary or the solution surrounding the thylakoids, and there is a lot of sugar in it, right? Because the light independent reactions, also known as the Calvin, also known as the dark, produces something that would make a solution sugary. Okay, so yes, 5 is stroma. Number 6, what is produced by the light-dependent reactions? So what does the LDR, or the light-dependent reaction, actually produce? Yep, I'm seeing some awesome answers. Some of you are, yeah. Okay, so that looks awesome, right? So the light dependent reactions, remember, these are the reactions happening on the thylakoid membrane. It's going to produce a couple things, right? So the first thing it produces as a waste product, right, is oxygen, right? Because the photosystem number 2, where the reaction kind of starts, once that electron gets excited by the sun, it zips across the electron transport chain. And if we want this reaction to continue, we have to replace that electron that was lost off of photosystem 2. And that electron comes from photolysis, right? Water is broken down and water kind of sacrifices itself, provides the photosystem 2 with a new electron to replace the electron that had recently been lost, right? And then when the water splits, you get hydrogen protons and molecular oxygen, right? So that'd be like one of the first things produced. Molecular oxygen, the plant doesn't want it, boom, get rid of it, okay? And then that electron zips across the electron transport chain and then ends up smashing into our electron acceptor. And there's an enzyme there, NADP plus, that grabs that electron and allows hydrogen to be bound to it. So yes, another thing that's produced, NADPH. And NADPH provides really high energy electrons for the light independent reaction. And then all along this journey, as the electrons were zipping across the electron transport chain, hydrogen ions were being pumped into the inside of the thylakoid, right? Into the inside of the thylakoid lumen. And then even when you split water, right? You split water into oxygen and hydrogen, well, the oxygen leaves and those hydrogen ions stay. So eventually you get a bunch of H plus or protons accumulating inside of the thylakoid lumen. And they want to escape, but they can't push their way through the thylakoid membrane. They can only leave through a highly specialized enzyme that is known as ATP synthase, which produces ATP. So technically speaking, what are the products of the light-dependent reactions? First and foremost, most importantly, ATP and NADPH, okay? And then you've got oxygen as a waste product, okay? Now, what is produced by the light-independent reaction? What does the light-independent reaction produce? Yes, absolutely. I'm seeing, yes, it does. Yep. So the answer to number 7 is, ooh, gosh, some of you all have some great answers. I like this answer. I'm going to read it out to the rest of the class. This student says, what is produced by the light independent reaction? This student said the light independent reaction fixes carbon dioxide into glucose molecules. That's an awesome answer, right? So glucose is produced. Now, technically speaking, the light independent reaction doesn't produce glucose as a true finished product. It technically speaking produces like 2 molecules of these like 3 carbon sugars that almost immediately be converted to glucose. But for our class, right, for our minds to simplify things, right, we're like, okay, what does the LIR produce, or the light independent reaction? It produces glucose. How does it produce glucose? Well, it fixes carbon dioxide, right, into a larger molecule using the energy from ATP, right, which is why glucose has energy trapped in it, right? That energy was provided by ATP, and it was able to undergo these chemical changes and these chemical reactions because NADPH provided both hydrogens and electrons to that reaction. So yes, glucose, okay? All right, so I want to play a quick Kahoot to kind of put your knowledge to the test. So if you guys would please quickly join me. I don't know why they put music in this. That just stresses me out. Does the music stress anyone else out? Anytime I'm playing a game that has music, like the Jeopardy music, oh man, that would stress me out. So if you guys would please use your first or last name to join this Kahoot real quick, and it'll be the last little review. And there's a reason why I'm doing, this review is quite long today, because, photosynthesis can be pretty tough. Let me see how many people we have. 24 people in here. So I'm waiting for 24 people to join our little Zoom. I'm pretty excited. It seems like quite a few of you guys, have a fairly decent understanding of the light dependent and the light independent reactions. And that's great. That's really good news. Okay, still waiting on some people. I bet I know who they are because they never participate in everything, and they're usually failing all their quizzes and exams. Come on, waiting on some people. If for whatever reason you can't join the Kahoot because of your bandwidth, your phone, or your computer, you can play along in the chat. I'm going to give it another minute. Okay, I'm going to type this code in. 7, 8, 7. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So if you're not in, too bad, too sad. Don't come whining, kicking, and screaming when you're failing the course and you're looking for extra credit. Because I'll say, hey, you remember that one time? Of course you don't, because you logged into the Zoom and then walked away to play the Xbox. So went back to bed. All right, here we go. Where should I put this? Okay. Light energy is converted to chemical energy during what process? So energy from the sun or solar radiation, which is a form of, radiant energy, is converted into chemical energy or energy stored in chemical bonds during what process? What have we been learning about? Wonderful. I was going to have a heart attack if someone missed that. Okay, next question. What is the name of the sugar formed during photosynthesis? And I guess technically speaking, it could be fructose, but glucose is the more predominant monosaccharide produced as a result of photosynthesis. What part of photosynthesis does not require the light? So what part or what reaction does not require sunlight? Another name for this cycle would be the dark reactions, or the LIR, the light independent reactions. Later on, when you learn about respiration, it can sometimes be hard to remember which of these reactions native scientists are more associated with each. And I think Calvin cycle, C, reminds me of chloroplast, right? And so I know this is why I don't like when scientists name stuff after themselves. So if any of you guys become a brilliant scientist one day, I know you guys love writing your name on everything, but leave it off of scientific discoveries, right? Don't confuse future students. So the Calvin cycle is another name for the dark reactions or the light independent reactions. And the Krebs cycle is another name for the citric acid cycle, which we'll learn about next week. And then these two right here are those protein complexes embedded in the thylakoid membrane that are responsible for exciting electrons by absorbing photons. What is the name of the pigment that absorbs sunlight to power photosynthesis? So the main pigment found in the photosystems. There are many types of this protein pigment, actually. And this particular pigment will reflect green back at your eyes, absorbing the other wavelengths of light. Excellent, right? So inside of the chloroplasts, you will find thylakoids, which are surrounded by stroma. In the thylakoids, you will find many photosystems, and in those photosystems, you'll find the light-trapping pigment chlorophyll. How are you going to remember this? Chlorophyll fills the chloroplast. At least that's the funny thing that I came up with to help me remember well over a decade ago. Where does photosystem 2 get its electron? So, and I need to reword this. Where does photosystem 2 get its electron, right? So the photosystem 2 absorbs solar radiation, right? And it excites an electron and it goes zipping off of the photosystem. How does it replace it? Where does photosystem 2 get its constant supply of new electrons? To do this, or to get this molecule is split. Excellent, excellent, right? And so the sunlight, the photons, excite the electrons on chlorophyll. That electron gets so excited it breaks free and across the electron transport chain. Now, if we want photosystem 2 to continue to operate, it needs a new electron, right? It just lost one. And so it gets that electron by breaking down water with photolysis. I need to reword that question. Where does photosystem 2 get its replacement electrons? Which of the following is a product of photosynthesis? And I sure am glad that photosynthesis produces this as a waste product. It's all right, it happens. Yes, a product of photosynthesis would be oxygen, right? Sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water, these are all reactants needed by photosynthesis to produce glucose and oxygen. Now, oxygen is a waste product, okay? And plants like to get rid of oxygen because oxygen can bind to rubisco, and that's that very fancy enzyme that performs the light independent reaction. And if oxygen binds to rubisco, the light-independent reactions will cease to function properly. And that's not good. Which part of a plant cell contains the light-absorbing molecules that start photosynthesis? So what part of a chloroplast contains the light-absorbing pigment that kickstarts the light-dependent reactions? Yes, the thylakoid. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Uh-oh, somebody's guessing. The cell wall is that outer layer made of cellulose to protect the plant. The cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid that surrounds the rest of the inside of the cell, and the stroma will be where the light-independent reactions take place. During the process of photosynthesis, where do plants store their energy, right? And so during the light-independent reactions, right, Rubisco is slowly building molecules in preparation to form glucose. So what is produced right before glucose finally forms? Technically speaking, yes, awesome. All right, some of you got it, right? ADP, right? It would be where energy had been released, right? I know this is a really tricky question. I don't like this question. You won't see a question like this on my quiz, nor will you see it on my exam, right? The light independent reaction takes energy from ATP, electrons from NADH or NADPH to fix carbon dioxide into 2 3-carbon sugars that eventually get combined into glucose, right? And so for that majority of that reaction, because it's a cycle, a lot of the energy is stored in those 3-carbon sugars. You will not, and I repeat, you will not see a question like this on my quiz or my exam. I was just kind of curious to see what y'all thought. The product of photosynthesis are the reactants for what reaction? In one of the earlier videos, the first video of this series, I introduced metabolism, and I show you 2 reactions. And you notice that they kind of look like the same, right? It's just one's the reverse of the other. And so the products of photosynthesis would end up being the reactants for what reaction? If your Wi-Fi is lagging, no worries. It happens. I am recording this so you can watch it later. Yes, that would be cellular respiration, right? So the plant uses photosynthesis to make sugars and make some oxygen, and then the plant can turn right around and using the mitochondria, take those products as a reactant and start the next reaction, which in that case would be cellular respiration. We'll learn about that next week, and I'm excited about it. How many phosphate groups make up a molecule of ATP? What does the T in ATP stand for? Excellent. Adenosine triphosphate. So there's 3 phosphates there. Okay, almost done. What pigment is responsible for the orange and red color of fall leaves? I'll give you a hint. Carrots have a lot of these, which is why they tend to be orange, red, or yellow. Some carrots, you guys know that carrots in nature typically are white. Yes, the carotenoids. Or in my mind, every time I see that word carotenoid, I always say carotenoid because it just helps me remember. So if you want to start calling it carotenoid, by all means, because it'll help you remember. Yeah, that's an accessory pigment. The blank is made up of molecules that pass excited electrons through the thylakoid membrane. And you'll see these in a lot of different reactions and systems, right? It's a series of molecules. It's usually a chain of proteins that allows electrons to flow through them. And that flow of electrons kind of allows those proteins to to perform jobs. Like it's kind of providing a temporary flow of energy. You know, in the same way that electricity is, all electricity is electrons flowing through a copper wire. Okay. All right. I don't know why there's so much time here. That's my mistake. Yes, the answer is the electron transport chain, right? In the ETC is what we use, because that's just a mouthful sometimes. So the electron transport chain does exactly that. It's a chain of molecules or proteins that transport electrons from one place to another, right? And a lot of metabolic systems and various anabolic reactions where energy is needed, you know, sometimes the ETC is provided, right? So electron transport chain. And you'll see that again, the ETC in cellular respiration. Which carrier provides high energy electrons needed to make the carbon-hydrogen bonds during the stage 3 of the light-independent reactions? So I really should just change stage 3 to the light-independent reactions. Which of these molecules carries electrons to the light-independent reaction, which provides the high energy electrons needed to make those bonds to turn carbon dioxide into glucose? Yes, awesome, NADPH. And believe it or not, this is actually I believe this is a coenzyme, right? And it's got a really crazy long name that is very difficult to pronounce. Okay, 2 more. In which location does the Calvin cycle take place? Where does the light-independent reaction happen? Also known as the dark reactions. Where does the light-independent reaction take place? Excellent work. The light-independent reaction occurs in the stroma of the chloroplast, where rubisco likes to hang out. Which product of the light reaction are used during the Calvin cycle? Which product of the light reactions are used during the Calvin cycle? The light-independent reactions need this, which is provided by the light reactions or the light-dependent reactions. Excellent, excellent. ATP and NADPH are supplied by the light reactions to the light-independent reactions. Carbon dioxide is not provided by the light reaction. The light-dependent reactions do not produce carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is already just floating around in the stroma because it entered through the stoma or stomata on the bottom of leaves. So ATP and NADPH are supplied, are products of the light-dependent reactions that allow the Calvin cycle to continue on. All right, let me write down our winners for this week. It's almost exactly the same as last week. We've got somebody else joining the top 3 this go around. Okay, well, that's all I have. I know that took up quite a bit of time, but I wanted to make sure that you guys had plenty of review. Where'd you guys go? Good luck on your quiz. If you have any questions, please send them to me in the reminder email. Don't forget, honor students, you guys, your article and your video questions are due today. My CP students, your vocab and your video questions are due today. And please, everybody, don't forget to fill out the weekly work log, okay? If you have any questions about what you need for Monday, just send me an email. I'll be posting like a little, please bring this to class list. I will also post the school day schedule on my Google Classroom for you guys. Well, I hope you guys have a great weekend and good luck on your quiz.